Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. Today we're going to talk about the HR, the dreaded world of human resources, but we have an expert and it's Gia Wiggins. We're going to talk about the difference between HR and payroll, the top do's and don'ts in a nutshell, finding that staff for a small business, keeping them, and then when you have to let them go. I'm Karen. I'm a CPA, entrepreneur with big ideas, and I'm the mom.
I'm Cadie. I'm a payroll specialist, business owner, and detail-oriented person that makes things happen, and I'm the daughter. Welcome to Cheers to Business. Gia Wiggins, my HR, human resources, guru.
The crowd goes wild.
Sister, I love you so much. We were separated from birth, I think. From the moment I met you, we have this connection.
I don't think Karen's going to tell us all the details about us really being sisters, but I'm pretty sure you're exactly right.
I think you are. I'm just Mama Bear.
That's right.
How long have we known each other now?
It's been a couple of years.
I think so. It's flown by.
Coming up on maybe about 3 years.
And oftentimes a lot of people in business assume human resource and payroll, while they're cousins, they're really two separate things, but they do work so closely together, and I think that's why our relationship works. So I would love to hear from you what human resources is.
First of all, payroll in a lot of organizations is part of human resources. And so I think that's kind of where it gets confused. Oftentimes, someone will have a person that specializes in payroll and they can also take care of the employee issues. So I have a question about my benefits or my pay isn't right. And so it really does merge together in a lot of different ways. And so I've always considered payroll to be an arm of human resources and the human resources octopus family.
All of it.
Yes, but
there's 7 others.
Yes, well, there are 7 others. But human resources as a whole is just, we take care of people, whatever that may mean. And so we are the ones that are in charge of the safekeeping of human capital. So if that means, sitting down to be a listening ear, if it's resolving conflicts with the supervisor, if it's helping to find a benefits package, making sure that payroll is done.
Making sure the employer doesn't get sued.
That's what I was saying. You protect the employer as well.
That's the whole different other side of it. And so we take care of, what we try to do is take care of all of the things that will take them away from being able to do their job in a safe manner. And then on the other side, we're a liaison because we also stand firmly with the employer and we help the employer to find solutions to their problems to make sure that they get the most out of the human capital, which are their employees and their staff. So we're there to make sure that the employees are effective and they're efficient and they're productive. And so we are smack dab in the middle, making sure that we bring both of those together.
And I feel like that gets overlooked sometimes in smaller businesses.
Yeah, a lot of times when I speak with small businesses, and a lot of my clients are small businesses, they say, well, I just don't think I have enough people to have, someone that's dedicated to human resources. And I said, well, that's fine. You don't have to have a dedicated human resources person, but you better make sure that your staff is trained enough to be able to deal with these issues, because just because you don't have a human resources department, it does not prevent you from being sued or having to deal with some of the issues that the larger organizations have to deal with. And so that's what I do. Try to help those smaller businesses understand what is necessary and the things that they need to know in order to make sure that their employees are being taken care of.
Your company, talk a little bit about that.
Well, I started Morale Resource, I guess it was about 3.5 years ago. I've been a human resources manager in management in human resources for about 20 years in 2018. So, knock on wood. And
you're working on your doctorate, too.
Yeah, I'll be finished
in
May.
Huge. Congratulations.
Thank you. So, when I decided to go back to work on my doctorate, I thought, do I want to continue to work in organizations? And so I thought that I was just going to go ahead and teach full time. I was going to go somewhere and be a professor, and, life was going to be fantastic. And I wanted to train HR professionals. That was the goal. And probably about 6 months into dedicated, steady work, I started getting some phone calls from organizations I'd worked with in the past to say, hey, can you come put together this program? Can you put together an engagement program or come to an audit? And the business was born from that. And so 3.5 years later, it's its own entity, and it is fantastic, and it is thriving. But
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. It is an absolute dream because I do exactly what I love to do every single day. But in essence, what we do is that we educate and we audit and we help find strategic solutions for our business clients. And so that may be a business that only has 2 employees. It may be a business that has 600 employees. But we look and see what they're doing, and we're able to benchmark what they're doing against what larger organizations are doing. Because that's one of the struggles for a lot of the times for small to mid-sized businesses is that they don't have that machine that large organizations have where they have, 50 people in corporate human resources coming up with all these great initiatives. Well, I've worked in those avenues, and I've been a part of really, really large organizations with, over 40,000 employees. And so I take those types of initiatives and thought processes and strategies and helped the small business to say, okay, well, what works in this environment?
You know what? You're like Uber.
I am.
I'd rather pay
Uber.
Yeah, right. I'd rather pay an Uber than the attorney.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. I'm gonna think of Uber now every time I see you.
I am. I'm HR Uber.
So, small business. They're
Yes.
getting employees, staffing, finding people. Let's talk about that. And then, the hiring process.
It can be one of the most exciting and one of the most scary things that a small business can deal with is trying to bring in new people and somebody new into their environment. It terrifies people. I know.
No,
most
I'm
people
not
do.
scared of it.
Yeah.
My gut will tell me which one. I know you hate that answer, but
I don't hate it.
It's not every person you hire is a good fit for
one
the
time out of 10,
organization.
mine's been wrong.
Well, I think that having a gut feeling is part of it. Because I believe in red flags. And so I believe that if you're interviewing someone or you're having a conversation with someone and those little, hairs on the back of your neck stand up, your spidey senses start tingling, I think you should listen to them. And so that's where the gut comes in.
Yeah, if it makes you feel icky when they stand next to you, don't hire them.
Or if they say something and you're like, oh, well, maybe they're just nervous. Or, usually if you let somebody talk long enough, they'll tell you everything.
They will bury themselves.
Yeah, but sometimes we don't listen to it. And so we're like, well, I know she said that, but I'm really good friends with her dad.
That's where you should run to
Or I
begin
know
with.
she comes from a really good family. Or I know that he's worked for these really large companies. And so I'm just going to ignore that. And we have to learn how to not ignore red flags. But there are a couple of other things too.
What's one of the biggest mistakes people make when hiring someone?
We want the scoop. We want the dirt.
I've got it. I've got all the dirt. So
Give us the dirt.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're hiring someone is that they hire a person instead of hiring for a position. And so I think that it's really important to look at the gap in your own team. What are the skills that you are missing? Or, for example, I need this particular job done, and here are all the tasks that are going to come with this job. So if you know what the job is, it's easier to interview the correct person because you're looking for someone with the skill set that you need in order to fulfill that job. Instead of, I've got somebody in mind, I think they could possibly do that job. I'm just going to give them a try.
I've been guilty of that. I really and
We all have.
and then try to force somebody into it. But I heard something really good that is if you can define the seat, you can find the right ass to go in that seat.
I completely agree. But you have to be able to actually define it. And so I always, when someone comes to me and they say, hey, I want to hire this person, I always start with, give me a job description. Let's sit down together. I want to know exactly what they're going to do. And what skills are they going to need? Not that you need to train them for 3 months on because, the labor that you're going to spend in taking a president of a company away from their job, away from getting new clients to teach somebody how to do something that they'll be, making $10 an hour to do is a total waste of money. So I'd say all the time, what exactly do they need to come into the door with? And let's put that in the job description. And then let's staff from there. Then let's open it up because, the perfect person for that job is not just the person that their their mother, or you're friends with their cousin. It may be somebody who is not even in our area, who is looking to move to this area, who's done that job at a way larger scale for a different company.
Oh, wow.
So why not open it up on a public platform, or open it up on a job search site, so that people could see it and you can actually get good candidates. I tell people all the time, when I was at BAE Systems, I was the head of HR there for quite a few years. One day, on a Friday afternoon, I decided to open up for a very entry-level human resources position. Okay, and we put it on the company website, and it was like on Indeed and Career Builder and like all these different places. 5 o'clock on a Friday. Monday morning when I walked in at 6:30, I had over 400 applicants. 400. And there were people that were from all over the country that wanted to move into the area, but the caliber of people that I was able to look at by just opening it up beyond, hey, I'm just going to put this on this quick little job board. I mean, and the person that we got just blew my socks off. It was more than I ever thought they would be able to get.
That's fantastic.
I loved what you said, because I think a lot of small business owners do say, I need some help, I need some help, I need some help.
But they don't know exactly.
They don't define it.
But they don't know exactly what they need help with. I've been there. For a while, we were hiring for the same position. But then it got to a point where we needed admin help. But we had never had that position. So we really weren't even sure what their duties would be, or, what we wanted from them. So that was a struggle.
I still want to hear dirt. I want to hear I do. I want to hear the most craziest HR story you've ever heard of in your whole life.
Oh, well, I've got one.
Okay.
I think I'll tell you this story too.
I want to hear it again.
It's my story about why people should do background checks. Okay?
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. I'm pregnant with my son, who turned 15 yesterday. And I'm about, probably 8.5 months pregnant at that time. And I was working for a company who will remain nameless. Everybody who knows me probably knows what company this is. Anyway, so I'm working for this company, and they really needed people badly. So they decided that they were going to forego having to get the background check results before the person came in. They were going to let them work, whenever the background check came back, that'll be just fine. So we hired a bunch of people to come in for this position. This one gentleman's background check came back. And it was my job in that organization to have the conversation with someone and say, sorry, your background check, whatever came on it, it's not something that we can permit, for working here. It was a very graphic and horrible crime that he had been in prison for 17 years.
Oh, my gosh.
He did not disclose it on his application. You ask the question, have you ever been convicted of a crime? He says no.
Oh.
Of course he's going to lie. He's a criminal.
Well, yeah, but he was a real big criminal, like a little criminal. So we call him in the room.
Don't let your pet near him.
Well, yeah, no one. And so he comes into the room. He's maybe 6'5", maybe about 350 pounds. It's me. I'm 8.5 months pregnant. My baby's kicking. And I look at him and I say, we got your background check back. I put it in an envelope, sealed the envelope. I slid it over to him because I didn't even want to say what the crime was. It was just that horrendous.
Oh, my gosh.
It was murder and a couple of other things. But anyway, and so I slid it to him and I said, please review it and just let me know if this is accurate. He looked at it. He says, yes. I said, okay. Thank you so much for, being a part of our team. And thank you, but I'm sorry we're going to have to end your employment. Well, I was trying to protect myself. There are like 4 guys outside the door making sure he doesn't jump me. And I'm like, thank you for being part of our team.
Did he just get up and leave?
He did. Wow. And I shook his hand, and I was very sincere and very thoughtful, which is one of the things that we'll talk about in just a little bit, but it's about just showing people respect. And even in that scenario, the difference between being safe and being unsafe, especially in my line of work where, you can make someone's day the happiest day ever by hiring them and can make it the worst day ever by terminating them. You just treat people with respect. And I gave him his dignity. Nobody else knew what was in that packet, but he and I, and we ended on a happy note, and I thanked him.
Before we get into the termination process.
I threw up the first time I fired somebody. I literally threw up.
Yeah, I was...
it hurt my stomach so bad.
The most impactful termination situation I've ever been a part of, I was a human resources a recruiting manager for Southwestern Bell when AT&T took over. And we had to go into auditoriums to lay people off. So during that stint, I laid off about 20,000 people. I'm in my 20s at that time. And once you do that many, you realizing that you're impacting that many, it gives you a perspective on terminations and the way to treat people when you're letting people go. And so I always, when I'm coaching people on how to do terminations, or even if I'm doing the terminations, I give them a script and I say, this is what you say. One of the first things when you're doing a termination is, you need to let them know why they're being let go. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, especially, in a small business setting where it may be the head of the organization that's letting someone know that I'm going to let you go. But you have to think about their development and their long-term growth. If you don't tell them why they're fired, you're instantly the enemy.
Yes.
There's no accountability that they can say, you know what, I made this mistake. You're exactly right. If you're not telling them what they did wrong, unless it's a really big issue, I always think that, there should be documentation
Yes.
before you decide to let someone go. But I always look at it in a scenario where, for the safety of my personal being, the safety of the entire organization and all of the other employees there, it's my responsibility to make sure that I let this person go in the kindest, most humane way possible. And so if I do a termination and the person is shocked, or now they're not going to be able to pay their mortgage, or their child is not going to be able to go to college, if they have an emotional reaction, I let them have it. I have a box of tissues there, and I sit there with them, and I say, I'm so sorry that this is something, that you're having to deal with right now, but let's talk about why it happened. And I let them be emotional. They cannot leave my office unless they're not emotional anymore.
Wow.
That's
They
great
cannot
advice.
leave until they are done. We've talked about it. And then the other part is making sure that they know what to expect. If they're going to get one more paycheck, or they're going to get 2 more paychecks, when is that paycheck happening?
Somebody ever thrown anything at you?
No.
Then you did it right, I would think.
If anyone knows
I
me,
haven't. I'm sorry.
yeah, when I shake people's hand, I'm a 2-hand shaker. We're making an actual connection. And so, again, it's very important to me that we're having that conversation. I'm building that relationship from the very beginning. I give them additional resources. If they're like, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills now, well, here's some resources and some nonprofit organizations that can help you with your bills. I'm letting you know that as an organization, we are not going to give you a bad background check. You may reach out to individual managers, but as an organization, this is what we're going to do for you. You're going to get another paycheck. It's going to come in 2 weeks. And so by having those conversations, they're a little bit indebted to you. And they're like, okay, well, at least I'm not going to act a fool until after I get my last paycheck.
I think the best termination that Cadie and I ever had, it was somebody that really did not need to be the one doing that job. So we opened the conversation as, what do you really want to be doing?
Giving them an opportunity to say, this isn't it.
She was such a great person, but it really wasn't a good fit. And then months later, she got a new position.
She stopped by the office too, and she hugged our neck and said, thank you.
Yeah.
All turnover is not bad turnover. Every time that you have someone working that is no longer with the organization, whether it's that they quit or they just stop showing up for work, it's not always a bad thing. Everyone can name at least one employee that they're like, oh, dear God, please let them find another job. If they come to work dressed up because you think they're interviewing, you're like, just take the whole day. I'll pay for it, I swear. Do you need a reference? I'll give you a reference.
I've done that.
Right. And so all turnover is not bad turnover. And so I often instruct, my business clients that, just be honest about it. If this is someone that you really don't want at the organization, you should have a conversation with them and say, look, this is the job that I need done, and you're not meeting expectations in this area, this area, and this area. Now, if you can turn it around, let's go. Let's turn this thing around. If you can't turn it around, I'm going to have to make a different employment decision. I just want to let you know. So if you need to look for another job, if you need time to interview, that'll be fine. But it's not working out. And people are afraid to have that conversation. But if you're documenting the performance issues and not being afraid to document and having those conversations with that person, and you're not making decisions because of things that could be considered discrimination, which is, something that falls under, a protected status, you're fine. I'd much rather you tell me, Gia, in 3 months, I'm probably going to have to let you go because you can't get to work on time. I can't rely on you. You said you had this level of skill in Excel, and I see now that you can barely open the program. Just let me know so I have time to find another job.
I really like that.
I do too. That's perfect.
As long as it's not discriminating against them, and you're not treating them poorly, and it's done with a spirit of compassion. And, I always have the Meemaw principle. Treat people the way you'd want them to treat your Meemaw when she was at work.
Okay.
And so if you treat people with the Meemaw principle, then, usually you can make a connection with them, and they're like, I hate what you just said to me. You made me feel bad, but thank you so much for letting me know that I've got 3 months to find something else, because I need to still be able to put food on the table.
Or they can turn it around and keep their job.
Sure.
Cheers to Meemaw.
Cheers to Meemaw. I love you, Grandma.
Really want to touch on keeping morale and engagement, because that is kind of, as a small business owner, you get busy and you're just go, and you forget, let's be honest, you forget about birthdays and
Yes.
or all that important stuff, anniversary dates, the thank yous that you're so grateful, but you forget or you get busy. So go. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Engagement is part of my life. One of the things when we started my business that we decided to do was to have an engagement division. So engagement is basically the art of getting people to care. Okay, so let's just make it simple.
We do care. We just forget to tell others.
Well, to get the employees to care.
Oh.
To care how productive and how profitable is Karen Simmons, CPA. How is Payroll Vault doing? Are we going to, be Franchise of the Year again? How do I get the people who are not getting those accolades from corporate, how do I get them to care as much as I care? That's what engagement is getting them to care more about, well, is my paycheck coming on Friday at 9 o'clock? And, you better not say anything to me because I'm working hard and I'm missing my baby's, field trip today. What is it that you can do? So one of the things that I wanted to do with my company was to have an arm that just specifically spoke about engagement. Okay, so what is it that I can provide to the community and to the business community at large that is a little bit different to get people riled up? And so what I did was I brought in the exact same thing I've been doing at companies for years. And anybody who's ever worked with me as a human resources manager can tell you, I celebrate. I believe that we should celebrate the small stuff. I do a presentation about employee engagement, and I talk about the hated birthday cake that comes in once a month for every single person. And you've got people in the organization who are on keto who don't really eat cake. And I'm diabetic and I can't really have all that frosting. But it doesn't matter, damn it. We're going to have this cake and we're going to enjoy it. And why aren't people coming to the luncheon and having the cake? And why aren't they eating these cold cuts? And, it's a great indicator about how engaged the workforce is when you start seeing that people aren't starting to show up to this thing you're having to celebrate them.
Eat the birthday cake?
Yeah. So what people want is, I want to know that you're not checking the box. Are you just checking the box to say that you're not the most horrible boss in the history of the world? Or are you doing something because you actually care about me? So one of the things that we do in my engagement program, for example, is at an organization, everybody takes this survey and we find out all their favorite things. It's 50 questions on this survey.
Like teachers do.
Right. And then once a month on their, well, not once a month, but on their birthday or on their anniversary, they get something that is just specialized for them. There's nothing in there that is not something that is very important to them. Maybe a bottle of Chardonnay and some good dark chocolate and a gift card to go to Tamara's or to go to a spa. It could be all types of things, but it's all about just teaching people to take a moment out of their day and to learn what motivates the person that's next to you, because everybody doesn't like the public recognition. I remember one time, at the last company that I worked for, they wanted to do something where they had the person's picture on the big screens, all over the facility. Well, some people don't want their picture all over. They don't want you to post on Facebook, happy birthday, Tammy, 35's never looked so good. They don't want that.
You know what I did? And it was 2 weeks ago. It was Amanda's birthday. And so they went and got some kind of little cake. And don't even ask what made me do this, right? So I go to my office and I said, I always screw up their birthdays. I always forget. They're on my calendar, but I get busy. So I went and got $100 bill and I held it up in front of everybody. And I said, for this year only, On everyone's birthday, they get a $100 bill.
I'm working for you tomorrow.
I did. And so I gave it to her. And Dawn pipes up and goes, mine was on the 12th.
You missed my birthday.
I did. So you know what? No, this is a true story. Yeah. I went to my office. I got another $100 bill, and I brought it to here. Well, Gina had been on the phone. She came in and she said, what are everybody laughing about? Kieran's giving everybody a $100 bill on their birthday. Mine was the 19th. I went back to my office, got another $100 bill.
You can only start that on the first of the year.
Because I was out of $100 bills, too.
Right.
So, you're going to have so many resumes emailed to
Oh, my
you.
God, yes.
It's
At KarenSimmons.com.
This year only, I said, this is not precedence.
Right.
Made it very clear.
Right. But it's about...
I needed something different because
yes,
I get busy and I forget, and that's no excuse.
And
right.
we care about these people so much.
Yes.
We would not be here today recording this podcast if it wasn't for them holding down the fort.
Right.
We're so grateful. And so the questionnaire, I think, is a great idea to really find out what they like.
Yeah. And it's just finding what makes that person care. People always talk about, bonuses and, things of that nature. And, we're going to, give out these end of the year bonuses. Well, that's fantastic. I love bonuses, by the way. Always have. For any companies listening, I love bonuses. However, the thing is that a bonus should be performance driven.
Yes.
It should be based on this was the company goal. This was your individual goal. This is what we did against that goal. It should be communicated in advance. If you do this and we do this, then you get this. It should never be a surprise.
Very clear.
Very clear. Where they know in October that you're not gonna get your bonuses because of where we are. It should always be very transparent. However, when you're looking at giving someone an increase, it has to be a smart increase. You will never be able to pay somebody what they think they're worth. It's impossible. They've not printed enough money to pay what I think that I'm worth to do certain things. And so if you always address an issue of disengagement with throwing cash at it, okay, then that's what the expectation is. There have been studies that have shown the first time you give somebody a Christmas bonus, thank you so very much. The second time, oh my gosh, the greatest company ever. The third time, where's my bonus? It's part of my compensation now.
I've said it for years. Appreciation turns into expectation, and I don't care what it is. I had a PhD psychologist say, I said that one time, and they go, Kieran, you're not like that. And I went, oh, yes, I am. When we moved into our house, I used to get the mail. But then my husband got it one day. I went, ooh, good. I didn't have to stop.
Right.
So the next day he did it again. And I went, ooh, good. I didn't have to stop. The third day I went, I ain't getting it. He's going to get it.
He's got it.
Everybody does it.
It's human nature. And so the powerful punch that it gave you the first time and the second year, by the third year, now nobody's doing Christmas shopping until they get their bonus because they're expecting it to come.
It's
what if you don't pay it out?
National Lampoon's Vacation Christmas.
Yes.
So, got to wrap this up. We're running out of wine. Karen, what are we drinking today?
All right. Today, we are drinking Victor Hugo.
From Donkey Market.
Drinking a man.
It
2014 Quasi.
Delicious. It's sweet, but it's got a kind of a spice. Gia,
it tastes like port.
It tastes like port.
It tastes like
I don't know that I've
port.
had port.
Well, it's very close to that.
Can we meet
it.
and go and continue this conversation
yes, we
another time and have
right
some port?
after this? Yes.
Gia, where can people find you?
Please visit my website, www.moraleresource.com. And please reach out to me, Gia Wiggins at moraleresource.com. I give free consultations, the initial consultation to see what we can do for you.
And highly recommend it.
Gia works with some clients of ours, and I tell you what, it's just
life-saving.
Yes, made such a
company
difference. So
saving.
Thank you. I love partnership.
All right, final wrap up number 2. 3 tips, just generic for small business, 3 HR tips.
Sure. One is when you're hiring someone, always do reference checks because you can usually find out what you need to know. Don't take people's word for it. Number 2, if someone has 1,000 jobs on their resume in the last couple of years, there's usually an issue there. It's a huge red flag. Either they can't can't keep the job or they're never satisfied, which is something that you need to know. And number 3, probably my biggest one is get rid of your abusive leaders. Make sure that there is no one talking down to or mistreating your employees. It will be the quickest thing to drain your pockets in lawsuits. So make sure that everybody in your organization treats those employees like they're valuable. That's it.
Excellent. Cheers to Gia.
Cheers to Gia.
Cheers.
Thank you. Will you come back one day?
Anytime.
Thank you. Y'all, thank you so much for listening and being here with us today. I'm Karen.
I'm Cadie. Please be sure to subscribe to Cheers to Business podcast on iTunes or anywhere else that you get your podcast. Visit our Facebook and be sure to give us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, shoot us an email from the website cheerstobusiness.com.